Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new legal breaking reporting and video analysis update. A judge has just ridiculously gave the DOJ, that is currently prosecuting Letitia James, the current Democratic New York Attorney General, let's get into this reporting by the New York Post. Ladies and gentlemen, the article is titled, Judge Hands DOJ in Letitia James Mortgage Fraud Case After New York Attorney General Motion Denied. Ladies and gentlemen, the article begins. The judge overseeing Letitia James's mortgage fraud case on Friday denied a motion from the New York Attorney General attempting to force federal prosecutors to keep a log of all their communications with the media. Defense attorney Abby Lowell filed the motion last week when James was arraigned on bank fraud and false statements charges in response to a report that U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan sent a flurry of encrypted signal messages about the case to a reporter. Quote, the defense does not demonstrate that it is necessary for the court to order the government to track communications with the media in any particular form. Unquote. U.S. District Judge Jamar Walker wrote in his 6-page order. Quote, the defendants request that government be required to keep a communication log is denied, unquote, the Biden-appointed judge ruled. James's attorney had asked the judge to order that federal prosecutors maintain a log of communications with reporters. Walker noted that Halligan's signal chat with Lawfare senior editor Anna Bauer earlier this month was, quote, unusual, unquote, but he declined to offer an opinion, quote, on whether they were improper in any sense, either legal or ethical, unquote. The judge ordered federal prosecutors to comply with all court rules, but didn't suggest any had been broken. He also ordered a, quote, litigation to hold, preventing the deletion or destruction of any records or communications having to do with the investigation or prosecution of this case, unquote. Halligan's signal messages to Bauer were set to disappear after 8 hours. The judge, however, did not rule on whether Halligan's message was, which cast doubt on a New York Times report disclosing that James's grandniece testified to a grand jury that she never paid rent on the Norfolk, Virginia property at the center of the case amounted to material subject to discovery rules. Quote, "The court is not persuaded that preservation of evidence related to the government's communications requires such evidence be maintained in any particular form," unquote, Walker wrote. Quote, "The defendant does not demonstrate that a communication log is necessary, so the court will not order the government to maintain one," unquote. Quote, "The court trusts that counsel on both sides will comply with this order without further hand-holding," unquote. In response to James' motion, federal prosecutors had asked Walker to place a gag order on the New York Attorney General, which he declined to do so. James pleaded not guilty last week to one count of bank fraud and one count of making a false statement to a financial institution. The longtime Donald Trump foe bought a 3-bedroom, 1-bath residence on Perone Avenue in Norfolk with a $109,600 loan on August 17, 2020, which was completed with a second home. Writer designated James as the sole borrower to occupy the use of the property, unquote, according to the indictment. That statement netted Empire State's top law enforcement officer more favorable mortgage terms that benefited her to the tune of nearly $19,000. However, prosecutors say the home, quote, was not occupied or used, unquote, by James, but was instead used as a rental investment property, unquote, which, ladies and gentlemen, might I add, is allowed under the mortgage agreement in the mortgage loan. Ladies and gentlemen, the article continues, to house her grandniece, Nakia Thompson. James faces up to 60 years in prison and a fine of up to $2 million if convicted of both counts. Ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, I really do not see Donald Trump's Department of Justice, especially Lindsey Halligan, who is unlawfully the U.S. Attorney, succeeding in this case. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this legal breaking reporting and video analysis update for the afternoon of November 1st, 2025. Please make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy, and follow along for all the more legal breaking news that you need to know about. More to come soon. I will continue to try to keep you guys updated the best I can with these legal breaking analysis reportings.